Welcome to Wimbledon, Legends of the Lawn, only on Sports Zone. Today we rewind to the era of quiet storms and deadly serves. This is the story of a man who let his racket speak, whose stoic silence masked a relentless fire within. He wasn't flamboyant, he wasn't loud, but when he stepped on center court, he became untouchable, presenting the unmatched grace and greatness of Pete Sampras, the king before Federer. Pete Sampras, the silent storm of Wimbledon. In a world where greatness often arrives with a roar, Pete Sampras conquered Wimbledon with barely a sound. No theatrics, no wild celebrations, just precision, poise, and power. He didn't command attention, he earned reverence. This is not merely the story of a tennis legend. This is the story of a boy who chased shadows on practice courts, of a man who grieved in silence, and of a king who built his empire on grass. Born on August 12, 1971 in Washington, D.C., Pete Sampras was a quiet child. He didn't scream for attention. Instead, he let his racket speak. At 7, he discovered an old wooden racket in the closet. Something about its weight, its balance. It felt right. Hours turned into days as he practiced in solitude, hitting against the garage wall under California's golden sun. He admired Rod Laver, not just for his game, but for his humility. Sampras would mold himself in that image, class over flash, depth over noise. By the time he turned pro at 16, coaches whispered, "This one's different." They were right. Sampras's rise wasn't meteoric. He lost early, learned quietly, and improved relentlessly. His serve, fluid, compact, became a weapon. His forehand, a hammer. His volley, smooth and surgical. But Pete wasn't just building a game. He was building a wall around his emotions, his doubts, his fears. Tennis is a lonely sport, he'd say, and I'm okay being alone. His breakthrough came in 1990, winning the US Open at 19. The world noticed, but Pete remained distant from the limelight. He wasn't playing for applause, he was playing for history. And Wimbledon, that was where legends lived. Sampras's first Wimbledon title came in 1993. He defeated Jim Courier in the final, and though his hands trembled as he lifted the trophy, his face remained composed. "I always dreamed of this," he said softly. It was the beginning of a reign that would stretch through the decade. It was the beginning of a reign that would stretch through the decade. From 1993 to 2000, Pete Sampras won 7 Wimbledon titles, including 4 consecutively, 1997 to 2000. The grass wasn't just his surface, it was his canvas. His serve and volley game was a ballet of brutality, elegant yet ruthless. Center court adored him, not for drama, but for purity. While Agassi was the flamboyant rebel, Pete was the silent storm. Agassi wore neon, Sampras wore white. Agassi gave headlines, Sampras gave history. Their rivalry, especially on the grass, defined an era. They met in the 1999 Wimbledon final, a match soaked in narrative. Agassi was resurgent, aggressive, vocal. Pete responded with perfection. He dismantled Agassi in straight sets, 7-6, 6-3, 6-4, with one of the greatest performances center court has ever seen. The crowd rose. Pete didn't pump his fist. He simply looked skyward. "That's Pete," Agassi said later. "Deadly quiet, quietly deadly." In 1995, Pete's longtime coach and friend, Tim Gullickson, was diagnosed with brain cancer during the Australian Open. Gullickson collapsed at a practice session in Melbourne. The news shattered Pete's composure. He broke down during matches, openly crying on court, a rare crack in his emotional armor. "He was more than a coach. He was my compass," Pete would say. Tim passed away in 1996. Pete wore the loss in silence, burying it beneath every serve, every title. "I kept playing. because that's how I grieved. Each Wimbledon win after that carried his coach's shadow, especially in 1997 when he pointed to the sky after the final. Winning for Pete was never about celebration, it was survival. When you win, you feel relief. When you lose, you feel broken, he confessed once. That pressure took its toll. The media said he was boring, that he lacked charisma, but they missed the deeper truth. Pete wasn't playing for the crowd. He was playing to master himself. He worked harder than anyone, trained silently, focused maniacally. Being perfect in an imperfect world, that's what I chase every match, he said. And on the grass, he found glimpses of that perfection. In 2001, the unthinkable happened. Pete Sampras lost at Wimbledon in the fourth round to a 19-year-old Swiss player named Roger Federer. It was a 5-set masterpiece, the passing of a torch. The crowd knew, Pete knew, his era was ending. He's special, Pete said of Federer. He has the grace, the game, and the humility. Sampras never won another Wimbledon match after that, but he didn't need to. His 7 Wimbledon titles, 63 wins, and unmatched serve-volley artistry had already carved his name into the grass. Pete Sampras retired in 2002 after winning the US Open one final time. He never played Wimbledon again. No farewell tour, no emotional center court goodbye. "When I'm done," he said. It was classic Pete, but Wimbledon never forgot. In 2017, he returned as a guest to watch Federer break his record with his 8th title. The camera found him in the royal box. He smiled, nodded. No jealousy, no regret. Records are meant to be broken, but moments, those are forever. Pete Sampras retreated into private life, raising a family, staying away from the spotlight. He didn't chase commentary gigs or start academies. "I gave everything to tennis. Now I give everything to my kids." But he remained a compass for purity in the sport. When the game turned flashy, people remembered Pete, his style, his silence, his strength. When players serve an ace, they still call it Sampras-like. When center court goes quiet, you can still hear his ghost. In the corner of center court history stands an invisible statue, not made of stone, but of memory. It doesn't shout, it doesn't sparkle, but it endures. Pete Sampras taught us that greatness doesn't always wear a crown. Sometimes it wears a calm face, a white shirt, and the weight of its own standards. He didn't play for fame, he played for peace. And on the green grass of Wimbledon, he found it. He walked off center court with 7 Wimbledon titles, a legacy carved not in words but in winning. Pete Sampras didn't chase the spotlight. He created one wherever he played. Thank you for watching this episode of Wimbledon Legends of the Lawn. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Sports Zone for more powerful tennis journeys. And stay tuned, because next, we bring you the electrifying, emotional, and explosive story of Serena Williams, the warrior who rewrote the rules of the game. See you on center court, but it endures.